that moment in the film. But man, you had to watch another, hour and whatever of footage, for that moment, and it's two guys fighting. You're like,
it's
like,
in a very British way too. It's like, well, whatever it is you want me to play, I'll play it. Or if I won't, well, I won't play it all. But it's not.
Whatever it is that'll please you.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, it doesn't even seem angry. It just kind of like, I mean, there's just not a high level of emotion in it. It's weird.
Paul McCartney's like sitting there kind of riffing on his bass at the same time. Like they're having this little back and forth.
Yeah.
It's like he's disinterested in even the fight. It's like even the fight is a there is no fight. He's just doing it while Paul's just kind of like, Well,
I wonder if now when they redo it, like whether or not they'll include that, and if they do, they will like, okay, we have a feed with the bass, and we have a feed with their, with their microphones, and we could actually change the mix so we could hear the conversation that they're having, because you're a camera and a boom mic, 30 feet away or whatever, and it's like,
Well, definitely the technology is there to boost that up, isolate it and boost it up.
I'm saying even if they include it, like at this point, they might even It might be just all fun and jollies and
I think that Paul McCartney has enough juice with a lot of that stuff too. That like if Paul McCartney wanted to lift the part of in the song remains the same where Robert Plant says, "Does anyone remember laughter?" Robert Plant couldn't get it lifted, but I bet you Paul McCartney could. I think he just had he's the living Beatle, and he's got more juice than Ringo. And I think it's like people don't want to piss off
Yoko's
Paul.
not doing too well, but they also own it. That's the other thing, right? Is they own this stuff. So, as a result, you get a lot of say. Whereas, I mean, I guess Song Remains the Same. They might own, but I could see where they did a deal where that stuff is. We want it. That
story, right? That Robert Plant, like they were remixing it for some anniversary special or whatever, and like they were going to remaster and IMAX maybe or whatever they were going to do with Song Remains the Same. And he was just like, "Do you think you could clip that part out?" And like the producer was just like, "Are you fucking crazy? Like
that's
you gotta leave that.
That's
in.
the money spot. Yeah,
but that's the money line. You don't know how hard Plant protested because at some point he might have. If this is like the same thing with that MC5 movie, if Plant really wanted to say no, he's sort of been like, "Well, you can't use my music."
Right. So he's probably embarrassed by how ridiculous it sounds.
Because
this is all these years afterwards.
At least 10 years ago that was redone, right, John?
Right.
Like at least.
Well,
and like up until that point, like if you wanted to get a laugh out of somebody, you could just always, "Does anybody remember laughter?"
It's like silly,
and it was always like. Let's face it, it wasn't in a friendly way about Led Zeppelin and Robert Plant. It was always just like you were putting them down about being about wizards and sorcerers and dragons and all that stuff. And the next thing you know, you're talking about the laughter. And so it's never like he must have been like, "I'm sick of hearing that,"
Yeah. I mean, they got the first screening of Almost Famous, right? And she yells, "Does everyone remember laughter?" when she comes in the room there, which I thought was a little like, I guess it would have been contemporary.
Maybe that's what instigated it.
But no, because that movie came out in like 2000, right?
No, it's more
right. I think it's at least 20 years old.
And that's been a joke, since the Song Remains the Same came out in 77 or 78.
I know, but I'm saying what Chris is saying, this is only maybe within the past 10 years.
Oh, you're saying,
that he's now like, we gotta kill that thing. I'm getting, movies are making fun of me. Everybody's making fun of me.
I'm serious, right? I want to be taken as a serious.
I just did an album with Alison Krauss.
That's why there's not a Led Zeppelin reunion. I think he does find like the lyrics are silly, and it's like, if I was in my 20s again, I could do this and do the, the cock of the walk kind of stuff. So, that's why I think that's part of what he's like, as an old man, it'd be silly me doing this. Like, I'm also knowing, I think Robert Plant has a pretty good sense of humor. And I could see him making that comment as a joke, to cut it out, that it wasn't really a serious, thing. Because if he'd be the kind of person of, it's like, we're going to do a remaster of Led Zeppelin 4. Can we take Stairway to Heaven off of it?
That's interesting because I will tell you, not long ago, I read a little thing, and it was a thing famously Frank Sinatra says on stage that, like, you know, that his favorite Lennon McCartney song is Something.
Yeah.
And like this author posits that Frank Sinatra knew exactly what he was doing, and he was actually taking the piss out of Lennon and McCartney by saying, like, here's the greatest Lennon and McCartney song, and it was a Harrison song. And it wasn't I'm an old man and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just telling you, like, you know, here it is. Here's my favorite one.
Sinatra, but I don't think so.
I'm just telling you what, and it's like, it sounds plausible.
It sounds like a far out.
Yes, there is.
It sounds like a Far Out magazine thing that'll be on my feed tomorrow.
Just because we said it out loud.
Yeah, when I hit Google to look for something else.
Right. It will be. Right. It's listening to us right now. It's not our friend.
You know, and it's like the Autobot that channels that magazine is going to knock out like you said, a 10 paragraph or 10 line, you know, like you said, in 10 minutes you could write a similar article.
That kind of nonsense, like all day long. Yeah, you know, just like, oh, I need a new Beatle thing. You know, just like, okay, this will be the one about how.
Okay, no. So the headline is Sinatra's famous dig at Lennon and McCartney is the headline. So
right.
you have to click on it.
Right.
Don't you do that all the time? Is you get the headline and you kind of try to guess what George
famous
Harrison, story. This is the headline for. You know,
the song George Harrison didn't want Sinatra to sing, or whatever.
No, Paul McCartney's favorite song, and it's going to be okay. This is where he talks about here, there, and everywhere. You know, it's like that's like Paul McCartney just thinks that's his great, you know, unsung song. So,
all right, I'm going to say
you're tired of us. You got enough now? Okay.
Well, I was trying to find a place to jump in, like a half hour.
Yeah. Sure. The dancing monkeys, they just keep us going. Okay, you just let us know when we're done. Give us a banana.
That's right. As usual, though, I know if I don't, we'll just keep going, and we've gone into 3 different directions. But
now see if you're smart, you'll cut out the first hour.
That's what I'm going to say. Just start from 10 o'clock on. And just go with that.
I'll ask this: John, what was Paul McCartney doing with a black carnation in Magical Mystery Tour? What was Paul doing sitting at a desk that had a sign in front of it that said "I was"? What was that all about, John? What, like, were they spoofing us at that point, or is it all just, you know, like? Were they starting to play along with the Paul was dead thing?
Why was he barefooted?
What's that?
I said, why is he barefooted on Abbey Road?
Well, I'm just talking about Magical Mystery Tour. I'm taking it back to Magic. I'm just talking about the I Was, the Black Carnation, you know.
Do you know the one about the phone number on the cover of the album? If you hold it up to a mirror, Beatles spells it's a phone number, and if you dial it up, they don't do it anymore. But if you dial it up, someone
I'm calling it up. Is Paul McCartney there? Who is this? No, you were supposed to ask for Billy Shears, right?
Yes, exactly.
Back when rock and roll had conspiracy theories. All right, I know we were supposed to wind it up, but let's hear that. Let's hear that blurb.
Well, that's a whole show.
That's a whole show.
All right, so we are cutting it off. We'll pick it up.
Paul will be dead again next week.
Paul will be dead next week. Paul McCartney's dead.
I want to hear those conspiracy stories.
Be out dead, man.
Because and there's a little car that supposedly Paul was in when he blew his mind out in the car, sitting on the lap of the doll wearing the Welcome Rolling Stones.
Sweat up.
Nice.
I'll take that. I'll bring that run right back in.
Soon, the response from Andrew Lou Goldham on an upcoming episode of The Beatdown.
Hopefully.
That's right.
Hopefully. How old is he now, John? Is he 75? He's got to be 5 years younger than Beatles, plus or minus?
Yeah.
Sound about right?
Probably maybe a little older, but yeah.
Let's thank our audience and wind it up. Thanks for listening to episode 17.
I want to thank Klaus Borman for listening. I know that he's out there.
I know that name continually comes up. It's amazing.
Well, we'll talk about Klaus Vormann.
I just want to thank
him for listening to the Beatdown podcast.
And I want to thank him for the sticker art that he created too.
Was he a bass player? I know he's a musician, an artist, a friend of those guys.
He turned into a bass player and played with Manfred Mann. Ethan actually bought a record one time.
You can't tell Ethan's stories. Ethan has to tell his own stories.
Yeah, let Ethan tell. Ethan's going to talk about.
I'm telling this one. Ethan had bought a record, bought a Revolver
You're stealing
record,
his thunder.
and it was signed by Klaus Vormann. And Ethan just decided, like, he got a few bucks for it, but he said, there's just no way to be able to quantify whether it was really, like, did someone just go, yeah, Klaus Vormann, you know? But then it like, he tells me this story, and a year later it goes by, and then somebody said that Klaus does it, like, would show up at Beatlefest all the time, and people would always bring in the Revolver record for him to sign. So he signed lots of them, and Ethan had one, whether it was truly signed. And Ethan was just like, I let it go for whatever it was, like $50 or something like that, just because there's no way for me to really know whether it was. And it was just like, and then, like I said, a year later, I found out that he was at Beatlefest signing all these things. I'm like, you know what? There's a really good chance that it actually was a Klaus Vormann, signed record, and you just let that go for, $50.
We'll take that up when we get him on the show.
There you go.
We're teasing another episode. Guys, thanks once again. You're listening to The Beatdown, which is available on Apple, Google, CastBox, and Stitcher. Subscribe to us and know when a new episode is available. If you have something to say or you want to be a guest, send us an email to thebeatdownmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook.
I run into Desmond Child every now and then. I'll ask him to be on the show.
You should. I would love to have him on. The guy's most prolific songwriter.
This Music Hour with John Rasso on Radio Free Brooklyn.
Uncle Ray's
Pacific
Record Room,
Soul Records, and Uncle Ray's Record Room. Listen to that. Doug Drescher, our friend Doug, with the Asbury podcast. Doug, sorry,
Come on.
Doug.
Well, if on Facebook, go to the Corvette Record Bin, and you'll see all.
There
of these
it is.
things.
The Corvette Record Bin is your friend, and it'll show you links to our friends. And
if you need plenty of ideas and honest criticism, reach out to Mike Riley.
Yes. No, he's got his songs on there. Doug's photos are amazing. He's a great photographer.
An unbelievably talented photographer.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Do we know?
Doug is our Klaus Vormann.
Yeah, there you go.
And he plays better guitar than like all of us combined. If we had 8 arms.
Do we know Ethan's stuff? Can we plug Ethan's records?
Ethan is Noir is the band, NOIR, and he is putting out stuff all the time. If you've got this sort of indie goth feel in you, then check out Ethan's stuff. Ethan's brother is Konstantin Maroulis from American Idol fame.
Name dropper.
Well, it'll help people to remember Ethan's, Maroulis. It's the brother of the guy that was
the less famous guy of the American Idol guy.
Oh, maybe we could talk to Ethan about that, because I think he should have done No Matter What by Bad Finger. That would have been. I think that would have been where we would have gone. Instead, he just got stuck in the rut of he couldn't top Bohemian Rhapsody.
Who was the artist that Konstantin sang a song by, that was the show that got him booted off of, like, when he got booted off,
I never watched any of it.
He made it to 6th place, so I think Konstantin's thing is 6th Place Entertainment, or something like that is his thing. And he was booted off of American Idol after he sung a song by which artist? Anyone?
Doors.
Was it
Nickelback? It was Nickelback.
Well, see.
Oh, yeah. Poor choice.
Just to show you how much clout I had, I called up and said, anybody does Nickelback, they got to get rid of him. And see, that's what happened.
Yeah. There it is.
Well, we got to hear that story, because maybe he was you know, it was like you're either doing Nickelback or you're doing this other.
My guess is Ethan's gonna be a little shy talking about that. That's my guess.
Well, we'll wait till
I would agree.